In this video, I have a special guest, author of the book, Our Cosmic Origin, Knowledge and Preparation for the Ascension of Planet Earth. Ismael Perez is going to join us in an amazing discussion about galactic consciousness, the ascension of planet Earth. We're going to talk about parallel realities, multiple timelines, grounding your higher self and your multidimensional aspects and integrating them right here into this reality. I hope you enjoy this amazing conversation.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. So much happening on this planet right now, both galactically and here right at home. Just amazing, amazing times. I know I've seen a lot of your content, a lot of things you're talking about. Kind of crazy stuff with the collective, right? A lot of weird energy, a lot of just craziness, awesome things going on. But we got to look at it from the right perspective so that we can navigate through it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you perceive what's happening galactically with, what's going on with all that right now.
So on a cosmic level or intergalactic level of reality, we're actually coming to the closing of a major cosmic cycle. Mm-hmm. So most people think that we're ending some sort of a 2,160-year cycle or a 5,000-year cycle or even the 25,000-year Platonic year cycle. But in essence, according to my research, we're actually ending 6 different cycles. We're also ending a 236 million cycle and a 40 billion year cycle, which has a lot to do with our universe rotating around the body of a greater cosmic, sphere that I discovered to be called the Mother Universe. Okay. So as most people who have studied this stuff, we exist in circles, within circles or spheres within spheres.
Spheres, yes.
And so right now we are at the culmination of all these revolutions that actually took about 40 billion years to come to completion. So what's happening here on the Earth, Mark, is not only unique to the Earth. It's not just about the Earth's ascension into a higher dimension. It's about the completion of our entire universe that is actually evolving or heading into a higher dimensional state of reality. Our universe is now ready to become eternal. It's getting ready to become part of the eternal life systems as it merges with the motherverse of the
centuries. And I talk about that. I call it, a lot of times we're referred to it as collapsing timelines, where we're taking a lot of these various realities and they're all kind of coming together. We're moving through like a Venturi effect, right? Where everything's kind of speeding up and we're going to come out. As we rise in consciousness, we're heading more like the branches of a tree, back to the tree trunk. We're all coming back to the oneness. So we're reconnecting with higher aspects of ourselves as we rise in frequency. And these cycles are all completing, which is very, very interesting. That just makes it an amazing time to be here, why we came here, why we're called here to kind of navigate through this and assist with the rest of humanity at this point, right? We're here grounded on Earth and we're here to assist with humanity in taking that step into this new reality. It's just a fascinating time.
Absolutely. And not only are we grounded here on the Earth, but there's versions of us that are still existing in multidimensionals, all the way up to 12. There's aspects of us that are actually operating from motherships. We are the Galactic Federation forces. So we're not only are we ground crew, but this is just an avatar, right? That was made for us in order for us to also have boots on the ground while operating on the mothership and in higher levels of reality.
Well, it's interesting, because I have actually visited my aspect on a galactic ship, very large ship. Various aspects. I've done that multiple times. I've communicated. I've got Pleiadian guides, Arcturian guides, Galactic Federation. They came and visited me here in my house one day, a couple years ago. And so I have bilocated. I have shifted consciousness. So yes, we are of focused awareness. In fact, the Federation was telling me, this was probably about a month ago, that we are the ones that are grounding that consciousness here into the planet. And we're allowing them essentially, which is a higher version of us, like you say, multidimensional aspects of us, to ground here. And we're the ones that could focus that consciousness and create this new world. That was about a month ago. They came in and I connect with them frequently. But yeah, I have experienced myself I have seen my aspects, higher aspects, and I've actually experienced realities as those higher aspects. So absolutely agree. We are multidimensional beings. I talk about all that all the time on my YouTube channel. We just happen to be focused in these physical bodies right now, right? So that we can bring that energy here. That's what this awakening is, right? Isn't it? That's grounding that energy into this planet and raising the frequency of the planet and the rest of humanity. And that's happening throughout the solar system and the entire universe. And they're all here to watch.
Oh yeah,
they're all here to watch, right? They're in the atmosphere. They're everywhere to see this amazing cycle come to completion.
Yes, exactly. So in a sense, we are anchor points for the higher.
That's correct. Absolutely.
And so one of the things that I like to clear out is that we're not going anywhere. Ascension is not about leaving the earth. Ascension is about integrating higher lower dimensions, or descending our multidimensional self into the here and in the now and collapsing.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. We are bringing, and we talk about drop-in souls and things like that. What we're doing is we're dropping in our higher selves. We're dropping in our multidimensional aspects. So we can look at it from the perspective of dropping it in, or we can look at it from the perspective of here rising up into it, right? However you want to go.
Exactly.
But it's an integrative point. Exactly. And what happens is we collapse these timelines, these various realities collapse in, and our awareness expands, and we start to be able to perceive these other realities.
Like a quantum computer.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's just amazing, because I'll just have an experience where I'm sitting and I'll get into a little bit of a meditative state. A lot of the experiences I have are like you and I are talking. It's I'm awake, and I'll shift into another reality, right? But then I have the ability to still realize that I'm anchored here, and I can pull that experience down here and pull that communication in. And it's absolutely incredible. So I think a lot of times people like to get caught up in the details with how this works, but it's really what perspective you want to see it from is what's important. Whatever resonates with you, many different perspectives to look at what, and understand what's happening. But bottom line is we're going through this expansion. It's an expansion of consciousness, which is creating space to bring our multidimensional aspects here and bring them all back into one, just kind of merge them right back, right?
And that makes perfect sense, because for billions of years in the what the mystics or Eastern teachers called the out-breath of God, that was actually the descending part. That was the separation from, dividing itself into different aspects of itself, each aspect containing the whole, like a hologram, and then each aspect further dividing further and further. And of course, we become individualized units of consciousness here in the lowest dimensions. Yes. So now it's like that process is reversing. and
we're going back.
Exactly. We're going back to source, because overall, despite the fact that we are multidimensional beings and we take on many forms and in many realities and in many dimensions and in parallel universes, but overall, Marc, we are our source and embodiment. That's what we are. When you collapse, because ultimately when you collapse all these aspects of yourself, you become the monad. And when you become the monad, that is God in its, or pretty much source in its purest, highest state of reality form, whatever you want to call it, similar to what scientists call pure base reality.
Yes, or source consciousness, really, right? You call it that as well. That's what I talk about with that Venturi effect, right? It's almost like an hourglass. So at Ascension, we're coming down in here and we're separating, right? We're hitting matter, we're hitting physical matter, we're hitting this time-space reality, and it is causing the photons that make us up to slow down, and we fragment out. And we're going through that reverse effect now, where we're coming back up through that, and we're reintegrating. I've had visions with my guides. I'd see a doorway, and I talk about this as well. I've talked to people about this, where I see multiple beings in the doorway standing up, ready to come in. And these are aspects of me stepping back in to reintegrate, right? And there's trauma there and things like that, and we gotta feel that trauma that allows them to come through and reintegrate. And that's a step down of it's bringing our consciousness right here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually, instead of calling it the ascension, I tend to see it more as an integration.
Integration,
coming into synthesis, coming into union.
That's what I talk about too. Yeah, bringing all of those pieces of us that were fragmented back into the whole, and that's what integration is. And we work through it, right? There's a lot of fear that comes up with the process and things of that nature. We feel a lot of emotions that have been trapped, that have been stuck in our body, and we work with that. We feel it, we process it, creates more space for more of that energy to come in, and continue to drop in. It's just, like I said, it's incredible. But the amazing thing is when this happens, the memories start to make it up here to the brain, and we start to remember, and we start to perceive. We start to see energy. There's a whole lot going on with that. That's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And in essence, it's not about learning anything new. It's about remembering.
Mm-hmm.
So as we collapse our different versions, it's almost like we're going to have access to infinite intelligence.
That's right.
We are infinite intelligence. And if you think about it, many experiments have been conducted through the field of quantum physics regarding this phenomena called the non-local mind.
Yes.
So one of the greatest things about living in today's world is that there is a gap that's coming together between ancient metaphysical knowledge, or what we used to think of as mysticism, and cutting edge physics or cutting edge quantum physics.
Yeah.
And that gap is now coming together again, which means that we are on the verge of a new planetary renaissance that is going to shape the golden age. And so,
definitely. It's exciting for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So according to this new model of reality, we're not just encased in this framework, this body, whatever you want to call it, avatar, right? We're actually everywhere. Our mind is existing in every point in time and at every point in it's not only non-local, but it exists in every point in time and in every point in what's the other word? Both in
time and space. But
there we go. Every point in time and every point in space. So, and at the same time, we're existing in the future and in the past. So
exactly.
And it's all happening simultaneously.
That's okay. So I talk about a wheel, right? If we look at the rim of the wheel, we could talk about we're going from spoke to spoke to spoke as points in time, right? You could go forward. You could see the next spoke, which is the next point in time. If you travel up a spoke to the hub, where as you're reintegrating, you're getting higher perspective. You go up to the hub. Now you could see all the spokes coming off the hub. So you could see all different points in time and access every point in time, right? So that's a perspective shift. As you expand your consciousness, that ability starts to land. And that's what's happening right now, because there was one point where I was actually standing in front of a version of myself that I think it was probably around 5 or 6 years old in grade school. This is a couple years ago. I appeared in this grade school standing in front of a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, 7-year-old version of me at a desk. And I recognized the school. And that was one of those moments where you're able to make a jump in time, because quantumly there is no time. Exactly. Time is just an illusion, right? Time is just a function of this reality. Quantumly, everything kind of folds and collapses into a singularity. We have access to everything. Absolutely. All locations. That's where we get into the non-locality of quantum physics. So as we remember how to do this, and this stuff kind of happens. It's not like I knew how to do it. It just was one moment I was there and then I was back. But I had awareness of me standing in my garage. It's when I was out in my garage when this happened. But that just shows the connectedness of all time and space, right? That we're not bound by a timeline, that we could revisit these events. And what's happening with humanity, I believe, is we are reintegrating consciousness that humanity had in the past. If you want to go back to ancient Egypt and times like that, that's starting to come forward again. And it's just absolutely incredible. Again, I could say that 100 times to ground this energy, to really reintegrate these aspects and expand your consciousness and start to experience these quantum events. Amazing. And this reality that we're living in is it's approaching a frequency where a lot more people are going to be able to start to do that. And like you say, it's a remembering. It's a remembering of who you are.
And the ultimate samadhi in the Eastern teachings is realizing that you are God, that everything is connected. You are one with everything.
Yes.
And the phrase comes in where they refer to the Atman being the Brahman. The Atman is the higher self reuniting, or the droplet of the ocean, a little drop of the water reuniting with the rest of the ocean, right?
The water is the ocean.
So as individual units of consciousness, as different droplets, all we're doing is we're merging with the larger body, which is pretty much everything. We exist in a ocean of consciousness. and awareness.
Right.
And it's all around us, it's in everything. I come to understand that, we live in a conscious universe.
It's all
Everything's
consciousness.
alive. Exactly.
Mhm.
And everything else is just a hologram. When we perceive the physical part of the universe, all we're perceiving is just a projection that has a lot to do with some sort of a filter. Depending on which dimension you're in, it's like there is a different avatar that allows you to interface with that dimension.
That's
but in
right.
essence, each dimension is just a holographic projection of pure energy.
Yes.
So in essence, it's all empty space. It's just different vibrational frequencies of energy.
Really no space at all. I mean, it's an electromagnetic environment that allows projections, matter to be projected out based on the makeup of the energy within the consciousness, within that aspect of consciousness. So we come down here and we're able to project out into this electromagnetic reality and form matter. And the matter is just a reflection of what's going on in here. It's a reflection of consciousness. So everything we see is consciousness. It's all us. We can't perceive anything that's not us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. It goes back to the movie The Matrix, really kind of similar to that when you talk about it, doesn't it? But yeah.
I was just thinking about it a few days ago, how in essence we're not just individual humans. We're actually we're planets. We're solar systems. We're galaxies.
Yes.
Each and every single one of us is a universe. In that regard. And we're one with everything. There is no separation, between me, you, or anything that is living.
No.
It's just one singular consciousness expressing itself through infinite amount of variations.
That's right.
It all collapses back to that one field of energy, right? What they call the waveform before it collapses into particles.
That's what exactly. It's collapsing the quantum wave, right, into particles. And how do we do that? We do that with consciousness. We do that with awareness, because when we could take thought and focus it into the grid, what happens is with intent, we then collapse the wave into particles and matter forms, right? But yeah, it's a lot of, I've studied a lot of that as well, the quantum,
we were all involved in the projection and creation of universe, galaxies, and solar systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
At our highest level of reality, or our highest version of ourselves, we first created the universe, right? Because we thought it into existence.
Absolutely.
And then we created the galaxies. And then each time we divided or created a different sub-level version of the higher one, we became denser and denser until to the point where we ended up in this third dimension where we think that we're separated.
We're cut off.
We're cut off. Where we think we're separated from creation. So I've always believed that the creator and the creation are one. I never believed in this, creation, creator duality that most people say, well, no, God is outside of the creation. It's impossible for God to be in the creation.
No, we are the creators.
It makes no sense, actually. It makes no sense. God has to be involved in the creation because God is pretty much this. God is like the mind, the eternal mind, right? Without what they call the unmanifest. The creation aspect of that is the manifest, which is what we consider, physical form.
The reality,
The realities, yeah. So I always believe that the unmanifest is experiencing more of itself through the manifest, but in essence, it's still part of the same field of consciousness. It's not separate.
It is. A 2-3 years ago, I received information that came in. It came in through a download. I was asking questions about the formation of the universe, and I started receiving answers about it. And it's exactly what you're saying, that we created this universe by focusing consciousness into this realm, into this time-space reality. It's like a matrix that was set up. And when we focus consciousness into it, it collapsed the quantum wave. It created gravity, which collapsed the quantum wave, and planets formed. And planets are consciousness. Everything is consciousness. It's all a reflection. It's all us. How many times do you want to be split? Do you want to go through the strainer to be split and fragmented, right? So we come down, we're planets, we're solar systems, we're planets, we're humans, So it's just getting further and further down, more dense. And that's what happened. But consciousness is what actually impressed upon this electromagnetic grid and collapsed the quantum wave into matter. Yeah, that was When I first received that information, I had to go to the internet and look it up. I'm like, is this correct? Is this right? Did anybody make the connection that consciousness actually created the universe? You know, and sure enough, when I went and researched it, some people were starting to go down that road and determine that there was an effect there. And they've done experiments with observation. There's a double slit experiment where the observer affects the path of photons, you know, and things of that nature. So quantum physics is starting to go down that road. But it's our consciousness, it's our awareness that creates all of this. We're not, you know, created out of it. We are creating it, and we are Gaia. We are living, breathing Gaia as well, right?
Right.
We're made of Gaia. We come down here and we're made of Gaia. We're grounded to the planet. We're part of the planet. The planet's part of the solar system, and just all connected.
Exactly. Sphere within a sphere within a sphere.
Exactly. Even, you know, even look at the universe. You know, we talk about spheres, and the universe is a big sphere, but the universe is also like a breath. You know, it's expanding and it contracts and it expands, right? It's like a living, breathing,
It's a living
consciousness.
Breathing. Yeah,
exactly. So we drill it down and we get us here on the planet, right? Which is just fragmented versions of that whole source consciousness.
And if you want to take this down an octave at the cellular level, you know, we are composed out of 50 trillion cells.
That's right.
So what makes you is 50 trillion micro Marcs.
Little universes, right?
Universes. And then each cell is, in a way, a micro universe, because the cell contains the essence of the entire universe.
Same thing that we're made of. Exactly. Which leads to the point where we could communicate with ourselves. And that's how we could get into controlling our health and controlling our aging, right?
Gene regulation through epigenetics.
Exactly. Yes. Because, you know, with the subconscious mind and programming and trauma, the genes down regulate. We could bring awareness and consciousness with intent back to the cells, and we could upregulate the genes, and we could start to heal, and we could start to reduce aging or slow aging and that kind of thing. So that, again, though, is part of the reintegration, isn't it? Because we're fragmented. We think these are our cells. This is me. When we could reintegrate that and realize it's all me, then we start to be able to control that.
And just like the way we think that the collective consciousness that makes the cosmos is, you know, pretty much what we call source, right? The oneness, everything in which everything comes from. So we would consider that to be like the higher power, right? That we connect with in order to reach higher levels of consciousness and expansion and freedom. At the same time, to ourselves, we're the equivalent of that. So when we speak,
that's right.
When we command ourselves, they see it as God. You know?
Yes. Yeah. It's just amazing how that works. But I've gotten so much from source and so much downloads when I've communicated with my guides who, you know, we want to see them as separate, right? These are separate beings. They're me, higher versions. I know that. But I'm able to draw information from that because I have awareness of them, and I could bring information forward. And it's one of those things that, you know, you never thought that was possible. If I go back 20 years, 25 years, I never thought this reality. Yeah, I'd be in this situation right now, talking to someone like you and working with people, working with clients and things like that with coaching. Never thought that I'd be in this position, but things have happened along the road, the journey, that just, it's just absolutely incredible, you know, how this reality landed and it's manifesting.
Pretty much what happens is the universe will always realign you with your true purpose. And sometimes it happens in weird ways, you know, where it sends people or certain things, synchronicities begin to happen. And
or events,
Or events, exactly. And that's what drops you back into alignment with your mission. And that's what happened in New York. You know, for many years, even though I've always isolated myself as a hermit, you know, because I was writing my book. But for many years, you know, I was, and I'm still into an effect, but now I'm transitioning over to the things I like to do. Like I just taught my first online starseed course cosmology class, which was phenomenal.
Oh, congratulations. Great.
Thank you. Everybody was stoked. You know, we went over the different star races and the galactic history, and, you know, in a way,
cool.
It's rekindled a lot of memories for a lot of people. So the whole point is that when you're not living in alignment with your purpose, there's always going to be something, whether it's a person, an event, or circumstance, that will take you back there. that will realign you back to your purpose. And that's what happened, so that's why we're doing what we're doing. And I think right now, because we are living in the most critical time ever in the history of the earth, I think now it's the time where all the star seeds and all the light warriors that came down here are now being recalibrated to their mission and their purpose.
Right.
I feel like there's a huge networking and linking of soul tribes everywhere. And
absolutely
create some sort of like a vast network of light globally. And
it's like a grid of light is what I've been shown, is a grid of light. And I'm seeing like light bulbs just popping up along this grid as more and more people awaken to their path, to their soul journey. Definitely. Yeah, I had for me, it was an experience. I was just sitting out in my backyard one day and I popped out of my body. I was listening to music and popped out of my body. I found myself in space, and all this information and energy just started rushing through me just spontaneously. It's a spontaneous awakening. And I'd always been very intuitive and always had known that there were, life on other planets. I'd seen UFOs and things when I was a kid. But this just popped me out, and I had information coming in about gravity, about the universe, life on other planets, all sorts of amazing things just like that. And that was the moment that shifted everything, just a complete boom. Like you say, it's a realignment, just boom, now you're aligned. And that was a dropping in of more of my consciousness spontaneously. More of my higher self came in a rush, and this knowledge started coming up and getting up here. Just absolutely, again, incredible. And that shifted everything for me. I was working as an accountant. I just actually sold my practice this year, and I'm moving into this full time because what else is there, right? I mean, it's just like, wow, I have to just dive into this full time. There's just so much coming. My guides are here and nudging me in this direction, and I'm just fully supported. It's just absolutely incredible.
That's awesome. It's happening for a lot of us. We're being deterred from the matrix 9 to 5 type of
3D stuff,
to be more of a fifth dimensional, fulfilling your life's purpose in the assisting of the awakening of the masses. Because ultimately we came here to do that. We came here to wake humanity up in preparation for the solar flash.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about the solar flash. Do you think it's inevitable? I mean, it's happening, or do you think it's going to be an event that is going to affect everybody spontaneously?
Well, I think there's been talk of the solar flash over the last 2 or 3 years. I keep seeing stuff. I've actually produced content about the solar flash. But as far as, what I know and the information I've got is that I don't know that it's going to be such a spontaneous event. I think it's happening to many people at different times. They're just having this connection with the solar plexus to the heart energy, because the solar plexus chakra represents the sun. Okay, so when that energy frees up and gets up into the heart, it's like a solar flash. So we can look at it as a mass event on a timeline. The sun is always producing and bringing in energy from the central sun, right? High frequency light. We're getting waves all the time. Is there going to be one big flash? I think the one big flash that we're referring to is going to be when the collective hits a tipping point with frequency. And I think the rest of the people are going to experience that type of a flash, which is really going to be just like an up leveling of spontaneous awakenings all around the planet, right? So as far as me, I feel like I've had my solar flash, right? If I look back to my event, it was very much like a solar flash. I think a lot of light workers really have experienced that. But I think as far as the collective goes, when we hit a frequency level, it's go time for the rest. And that's what I think that is. Yeah.
That's the same confirmation that I got when I was communicating with Melchior, our galactic logos. He said it's a two-way process. He says first, there has to be a critical mass of people awakening and raising the frequency, because once I believe I was informed that I think it's 10%. Once we hit 10% of the planetary,
I believe so. Yeah.
Then it's going to cause a natural shift for the collective, and then that's when it's going to be done on a way where it's like we're going to go from the entire planet is going to be making the shift. Like the entire planet is going to be embedded in
reality.
Yes. But yeah, it's going to have to hit critical mass. And I think we're almost, do you feel the same thing?
I feel like it is accelerating very, very rapidly. You asked me 2 years ago, I would have said we got a long way to go. But now I'm seeing a lot more people wake up to what's happening. I think a lot of people are facing they're looking at the old timelines. They're feeling it's not resonating anymore. Mm-hmm. And they're starting to ask questions about, why am I here? What is this all about? You know, because what happens is when we start to feel those feelings, a lot of people, it's a feeling of hopelessness too, for a lot of people. It's like, oh, what's going on in the world, right? When we start to get into those feelings, we turn inward and we start to really create space. There's nowhere else to turn, right? We can't find answers externally. We turn inward and we start to realign with our soul, with our higher self. And that allows more consciousness to come in. So I'm seeing that happen around the planet. And with the people I talk to as well, they're navigating these difficult times, but these difficult times are getting them inside. They're finally ready to start dealing with these feelings, with these traumas that have been keeping them in the lower dimensions and lower frequencies. And once you could do that, you could bring awareness to that, consciousness comes to the table, and frequency starts to rise in these individuals. And I'm seeing it going like this more around the planet. And we will hit a point where it's going to be, like you say, critical mass. We're going to have a certain number of people. They're going to get to that frequency. And then there's going to be that jump. So it's very much in alignment with what you're saying. Do I think it's going to be long? I mean, how do we define long? I mean, years, decades? I don't think it's going to be decades. I think it's going to come very, very quickly, because I can't imagine that I awakened to do this work and have to hang for decades. I think it's going to come fairly quick.
I believe so as well.
Yeah.
And probably even sooner than later because of the time accelerating factor that's.
I agree. Definitely. Yeah. I won't put a date on it. And I've asked my Pleiadian guide that question, and she will not give me a date. But what I can feel that's happening around the planet, we feel things, we see things accelerating. We could feel the energy accelerating. We keep getting these energy blasts, these high frequency waves from the sun. We're getting solar flares all the time. There's all this crazy, awesome activity. It's accelerating, and it's going to happen, like you say, sooner than later. And in fact, the Federation, this was too, not too long ago, showed me, I don't know if you've received this as well, but a bunch of new species coming down through the sun that have not been able to come here before because the frequency of our solar system had not been high enough. And they're coming in droves now, which represents even higher versions of us coming in. And we're creating the space here, and we're grounding that consciousness that allows them to come more into our reality and then step down here through us. So I don't know if you've gotten anything like that. That was shown to me about a month ago as well. All these craft, things I've never seen before, come in. They're coming into our solar system now. They're coming into our reality because the frequency is higher.
Yes, I could actually confirm that is absolutely correct, Marc.
Okay.
Yes, I've always known that our sun was a portal to higher dimensions, and I am informed that many ships are coming through our sun. Basically, since the last few years, I think since 2016.
Yeah.
It was high enough for these higher dimensional beings to come in. And we're not talking about fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional beings. We're talking about
higher.
8, 9, 10, 11,
yes,
and even 12 dimensional beings.
Yeah. Yeah, they were showing me that's exactly what they were showing me, because I didn't recognize any of these types of craft. And they're saying, well, these are much higher frequency craft coming in through the sun because we have grounded we've raised our frequency. We've grounded consciousness here so that they could come in to our reality, come in through the sun.
A grid for them.
Exactly. We're holding space. We're actually able to support. Yeah.
Because as you know, consciousness is held by the grid of the planet as well.
Yes.
And it's very effective, or it's constantly interacting with gravity and the electromagnetic field. I mean, all those factors contribute to the formation and the holding of consciousness on a sphere. The weak force, the nuclear force, when you think of the atom, all that stuff is necessary to hold consciousness.
Right. Yes. That holds matter together, right? That's part of its collapsing of the wave. That is consciousness, actually. That collapses the wave.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
So that's what we did.
Gravity.
We created a grid at a higher level of a higher frequency of reality so that more beings could come in.
We could support them. Yes. That's exactly what they were telling. Yeah. What they told me.
Because, you know, what most people fail to understand is that we're not just giving the opportunity to go into the fifth dimensional Earth. We're actually, for those that are ready and for those that are matching the higher frequencies, some of us are going to go up to the sixth, seventh, eighth, and even all the way to the 12th dimension. I heard that there's going to be a very small percentage of people that are going to be able to integrate and anchor the 12th dimension in their physical form.
Here, that's right. Yes, that's right. Yes, absolutely. That was confirmed to me by my Pleiadian guide, actually. Yes.
Okay, so we're getting the same information.
The same information.
First time I ever talked to you.
That's right.
That's
absolutely. She was talking to me about sixth dimensional energy. She had told me, she goes, you're receiving sixth dimensional energy and you're anchoring that. So that's what's supportive of these high dimensional energies, these beings, to be able to come into our universe at this point, because we're anchoring those codes, we're anchoring those frequencies here.
I don't know if you're familiar with the 5 harmonic universe system of the different densities. No, okay, so
probably maybe not by that label, but yes, probably.
They're also known as the 5 density universes, and each one carrying 3 dimensions, or each one consisting of 3 dimensions. Okay. So, for instance, we're part of harmonic universe number 1, which consists of dimensions 1, 2, and 3. And then there's an Earth that exists in harmonic universe number 2 that corresponds or correlates to Terra, right? Atlantis, existing in the 4th and 5th and 6th dimension. And then there's another Earth that exists in the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimension that is beyond Terra Atlantis. And that's the, you know, a higher dimensional Earth. I guess they call it Gaia. And then there is another Earth that exists in the 4th harmonic universe, which consists of dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And that's known as Tana. And then finally, you have the original Earth that was that came to us from eternity, and that's known as Sophia, which exists in dimensions 13, 14, and 50 in the 5th harmonic universe. So each harmonic universe consists of 3 dimensions. So what we're doing is we're actually anchoring all 5 harmonic universes into the Earth. Okay. Fact that we're completing a cosmic cycle. Yes. So
yes, I have been shown that. Yes, not by that name per se, because that I have not researched, but I have been shown that. Absolutely, pulling these versions down, these higher frequency versions altogether. That's
so what's been coming in is beings from harmonic universe number 3, 4, and 5, which consists of dimensions 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
So that's these higher frequency, very high frequency beings. So they're returning because we're actually stepping into the reality where they're available, where they're able to manifest. So makes complete sense. So I appreciate you putting a little bit of a bow on that for me, because that's information that I've received too. Yeah, very similar. I didn't research it. I didn't know by the labels even how to term it, but yeah, incredible.
So you would agree with me, right, that the Earth has the positive timeline has been secured by the Federation forces, right?
Absolutely, and, yes.
You know, there will be a new heaven on Earth, a prophesied 7th golden age of enlightenment, a tangible 7th golden age of enlightenment.
Yes.
Great, because there's unfortunately a lot of people that are still in that fear-mongering mentality.
Yes, it has already happened. We're catching up with the actual manifestation of it. I have been told by my guides that it is already, we are just catching up with it here. We're going to move up into the frequency where it is able to manifest.
So in a sense, would you agree that that frequency or that 5th dimensional reality and up is already coexisting in the same space at the same time?
Yes.
And all you have to do is match its frequency to translate into that reality.
I've seen it. I was taken to a pocket of it. There are pockets of it on the planet. My guide took me to a pocket of it about 2 years ago. And I was able to step into it. And it's not a location per se, it's a frequency. It's a frequency. But that frequency can be generated in certain parts of the planet because of the energy and the way the energy is anchored. And it can manifest. And I was able to perceive it several times. Absolutely beautiful. So it is here, and we could choose to experience it now. And more people will choose to experience it down the road. We look at it this way, Ismael. This is how it works. This is how my Pleiadian guide showed me. When we look at a timeline, if we want to look at a timeline, okay, we're going forward across the timeline, right? And we like to say, like my Pleiadian guide, I could say is from the future, right? We've been told that, well, they're from the future. So if we're here, you know, they're here on the timeline, the future. But if we take this timeline and we stand it up, it becomes a frequency band going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up the dimensional scale, right? So we're here, which would have been this point in time. Now we're here on this frequency bandwidth, and the Pleiadians are up here. Okay. That was the future. This is 5D, 6D up here, right? So what's happening is when they say, because being up here, they could see everything below it. They could see all the events that rise up into that, right? Which we would perceive from our frequency as the future. So she was telling me that it has already happened. We are just rising up into that frequency bandwidth where it can manifest.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
Yeah. So it's happening. It's happening.
Best times to be alive. Would you agree?
I would agree. Absolutely. And it was just had to be here for this, right? Didn't always feel like it. It's like, why would we want to be here for this, right? With everything that's going on collectively, we see out in our reality here. But yeah, this is the gold. This is why we came. And when I talk to my guides again, my Arcturian guides, my Pleiadian guides, it's just we have so much gratitude to be able to be the actual awareness that's focused into this reality, to see this process unfold. And to be able to open the doorway and hold the doorway open for others to step through it.
That's what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing. That's why we came. And
when we came here knowing that we would forget who we are. But that's part of the process of discovering who we really are and relearning things.
That is part of the process. And, throughout our lives, we've dropped or lobbed ourselves some softballs throughout our lives to kind of give us opportunity to remember who we are, right? That's all part of the experience. The experience was to come down here, and we knew we were going to separate. We knew we were going to fragment, and we knew we were going to forget. But it's the reintegrating and bringing it all back here. That was the experience that we wanted to have. And that's the experience that the earth, that Gaia was ready to have. So we're here all at the same point in time to be able to experience that. And we are the chosen ones. We are the ones that just got to come into it and do this. And lead
That's
the
what
way.
I always say. We
right?
are the beings that all the scriptures and holy books have been prophesying about.
We are that, yeah. And this is the place. Wouldn't you agree? This is the place in the universe to be. I mean, this is it. This is like ground zero, right? This is the place.
It's becoming the epicenter of the multiverse
At this moment in time. Yeah, and when I'll go visit a craft and be watching. They're observing this whole process play out. And I'm so fortunate, as you are, to be able to have that direct connection with those aspects of me that are on the higher, because it brings so much joy and gratitude and love just to know that we exist in other realities just above this one, and to be able to experience that and see what's going on here from that perspective is an absolute blessing. It's just absolutely incredible. So we've got both views. We could see it from up here and we could see it from down here looking up, right?
Yeah. And the thing about seeing it from up there is that gives us more of a sense of assurance and security when we're down here also. It allows us to see the bigger picture, so we could see that,
that's right.
There's something bigger than us that is unfolding, and we chose to come here to make it happen. So it's very comforting, very comforting.
And I work with people on that too, to get back aligned, to get back into alignment and reconnect with your higher self, or reconnect with your guides, whether it's your star family, your higher self, whatever it may be. When you can do that, you build that circuitry, you entrain your brain to get back into those frequencies. Right away why you're here. Living the day-to-day life, we kind of get separated from that, and fear kind of creeps in a little bit, right? We can start to get anxiety, start to get fear. That creeps up, which is an indication we're separating from that connection. When we can get back to that connection, it all goes away because we remember who we are and why we're here. So that's, I work with people to get them back into that space, and that brings forward their energy and their higher self. But to be able to have that is an absolute blessing, to be able to have that connection, because people that are just starting to awaken, they don't have that. They're clearing everything that's in the way from getting that. And that's the fear and the despair, the spiritual depression, that kind of stuff. So we're here to help people kind of move through that. And our connection isn't it really a reflection to them of who they really are? When they see us and they see our connection, that's a reflection of them of who they really are, right? So they're seeing themselves through us. It's being reflected back to them. So that helps to kind of plant seeds in there and start to go down that path as well.
It's amazing. It's amazing. A lot of people DM me and say, Ishmael, the video that you just put out, I received the same message from my guides or my Pleiadian contacts or my Arcturian or Syrian guides. And I'm thinking to myself, we are the Federation on the floor, on the ground, while we're up there simultaneously. So when people say, so where are the aliens at? We're here. We've been here. We've been living among humans for so long.
That's right.
We had to adapt to their lifestyle. We had to, almost pretend to be humans for many years, and now it's like our true authenticity is coming out. And
in the Federation, they said to me directly, they said that you are us.
Yeah.
You are us that is grounded here, anchored to the planet, to rise in frequency, to enable us to come through, to allow their consciousness to come through us. We are them. Okay. It's like they took an aspect of themselves, stripped it off,
put it in a body.
And put it in a body.
Exactly.
And waiting for that seed to sprout, that body to awaken.
To awaken,
the body awakens.
Full consciousness could be anchored.
And then it comes down.
Exactly.
And again, that's, we talk about drop-in souls and things like that. That's really what a drop-in soul is, isn't it? We're awakening to who we are, and that creates the space and it drops in. Right.
So
we retain that.
Emergence, right? We emerge.
We emerge, yes.
We emerge into this reality whilst existing from above as well.
Both. Absolutely. Both places. And as this process continues, people will be able to experience those realities as well simultaneously as they're still standing here walking on this planet.
Describe or shed some light on how there's a lot of people who are being brainwashed to think that the Federation are evil. They don't understand. We live in a dualistic universe.
Well, it's control. It's control.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're trying to control population. Here's the thing: when we can keep people in fear, and this is what I mentioned before, we keep people separated from their divinity, from their higher self, from their soul, from their multidimensional aspects, because they're focused on fear. Fear is such a trauma response, and fear, to some extent, is necessary because that's one of the grounding frequencies. That's what kind of gets you down in here, right? Into this density, is you have this fear. But as the frequency of the planet rises, we could alchemize a lot of that fear. So we start to process it. And as we process it, we raise its frequency, which electromagnetically then allows higher frequency light to come down into us, right? And we further expand. But there have been institutions and people on this planet for a long, long time that know that fear is the key to keeping people separated from who they truly are. And that's being utilized today to do just that. Because when we could keep people in fear, we could control them.
Case in point, organized religion.
Very, very much designed around fear. Fear of control. And not just that, it's fear, it's separation, right? When we talk about you are here and God is here, we're reinforcing separation. So we're keeping people in fear. Now people feel like they have to take certain actions or live a certain way to be connected with God. Okay. And that's false. We are God. We are God walking here on earth.
And every experience matters because it is through our collective experience that the greater consciousness system that we would consider God expands. Everybody, if everybody was just doing the one thing, one uniform and one experience, then how would the collective expand? How would the larger consciousness system grow? If each one of us didn't have a different life, a different experience.
That's right. So we all have traumas.
Exactly.
We all have. That's the thing is we come in here and we have certain traumas and a lot of this stuff's pre-planned. We want to experience certain things. We come in here and we fragment. We're born and we fragment. We're all of a sudden we're relying on our five senses only. That's our reality. That's our life is our five senses. We disconnect from our higher self. We forget who we are. And that right there creates a trauma, right? When we're separated from our soul's energy, our soul, our higher self, we're traumatized. And that lowers our vibration. And when we lower our vibration, we get more dense. We get more heavy. And it's like we're walking through quicksand, right? We're walking through mud, and it takes a lot of energy. That's called resistance, right? We're in resistance when we're in fear and that kind of thing. So there's institutions, and organized religion is one of those institutions that keeps people living in fear, and that controls people. It controls behavior. It takes away our free choice.
It keeps them disconnected from their higher self.
That's correct. Absolutely. Yeah. So and they call that spirituality. Organized religion to me is not spirituality. Returning, it's politics. It's a form of politics. Okay. Yeah. But when we could bring people back to more towards oneness, to who they truly are, by working through these traumas and fear, and realizing that their soul is actually giving them signs and signals every single day, trying to remind them of who they are. They just, for whatever reason, have this programming running within them, if it's religion, politics, whatever it may be, that they turn away from it. That's where synchronicities come into play, right? These are messages from the divine, from your higher self. So when we could wake people up to those and allow them to feel the significance of some of these things and make the connection, because these synchronicities are quantumly connected to events within their lives. It may not be the event that happens when they see the synchronicity. Maybe it's an event that's going to happen 2 days from then, right. Or maybe it's something that happened 5 years in the past, but it triggers a memory within them, triggers a feeling. That creates a quantum tunnel to an aspect of them at a different time and space. And that starts to really kind of bring the web back together. That's the starting point, right?
Yes. It keeps them stuck in the matrix, pretty much.
Yeah, when they're in that fear. But we could punch through that by bringing significance to some of these small little events like synchronicities and things like that that are happening in their lives. Then they start to bring awareness to that, and maybe not so much to the fear, right? Like, oh, well, that was kind of strange. That can't be coincidence. There are no coincidences, right? People will chalk it up to coincidences when something incredible happens. There are no coincidences, but we could show people that and show them the way. And I do that through my experiences. I will tell people about my experiences and just kind of show them what's possible, because I'm a reflection of what's possible. I had a Pleiadian craft, Ismael, a solid craft over my mother's house around the time she passed 3 years ago. As I was going over to the house. Yeah. I have a whole video on my YouTube channel about that whole event that was absolutely incredible. How that whole thing happened. So definitely I have seen my Pleiadian aspect in her house before she passed. That's the first time I saw my Pleiadian aspect. She passed in 2018, but it was in her house. I think we need to show people what's possible, because they have a very limited perception of reality. When you're relying on your five senses and when you're focused on organized religion and things like that, reality is far more expansive than people realize. I will let you go because I know it's getting late here. All right, my friend, we will talk soon. I appreciate this. It was a lot of fun.
Likewise. Well, have a good night.
Okay, thanks. You too.